In this DCS update, after years of waiting, Magnitude3 finally released the F4U-1D Corsair, and Eagle Dynamics introduces the Marianas 1944 map to accompany it, and a raft of other cool little changes are also introduced in this week's big patch. Welcome back to the DCS SITREP. I'm your host, Prickly Hedgehog, once again, as we talk all about the world's premier combat flight simulator for the home PC, DCS World, brought to us by Eagle Dynamics and its third-party affiliates. And once again, we're going to focus on the F4U-1D Corsair by Magnitude3, which was released in a large patch this week. It's been a long time coming. A lot of people saying it was vaporware. They won't believe it until they see it. All of these comments, understandably, because the aircraft has been that far along in development. So let's talk about what it means now that it's here. What kind of features can we expect to see with this aircraft? Well, the early access Corsair features a highly detailed and realistic cockpit and external model that are rendered entirely with PBR textures, and I can confirm that looking at these exterior shots. It's absolutely magnificent looking. The featured 1D version includes a gyro gun sight, an N9D reflector, and even the ASM-N2 bat glide bomb. Flight modeling simulates the aircraft's unique characteristics that make it a deadly opponent to Japanese forces in 1944, and quite a challenge to operate from the aircraft carrier. And this is because of the quirky habits of the aircraft. A lot of torque with that engine, the long nose and relatively stubby rear end. There's a lot of tail authority because of the weight and balance of the aircraft up at the front. So it can be pretty twitchy, likes to roll around on you, and at low speed, if you stall it, it's definitely curtains. It will crash pretty easily. So you've got to handle it and manage that torque, manage that speed, and also manage the heat for the engine manifolds as well. Those cylinder heads get hot and that engine will cook. A little bit of a storm going on here right now too in Minnesota, here in the Twin Cities. So if you do hear some background booming, we've got some pretty incredible heat right now and a lot of dynamic weather. Anyway, moving on to the aircraft itself. So flight modeling simulates the aircraft's unique characteristics that make it a deadly opponent to Japanese forces in 1944, as I said. And the Corsair's powerful engine and massive prop torque provides exceptional speed and climb that lent towards its slashing attack tactics against slower and less capable aircraft. Along with the Corsair release, there is also this SX-class aircraft carrier. Japanese coastal guns and ground vehicles will be available for free as part of the core update, which is really good news. Now, other assets are being created, such as, stand by, for the F6F Hellcat. Remember, that is a Eagle Dynamics product, and also several United States and Imperial Japanese air, ground, and naval units. Something that we saw in the 2024 and beyond video, but I think we've also seen some other stuff since then as well. So they say here, please see the Pacific Theater of Operations CH-47F development progress, lunar sail final hours, official newsletter, ED forums for more information on that. That was a bit of a mouthful. Yeah, either way, I'll post a link in that for that actually in the section below here in the comments. Now for this scenario, we are creating an extensive and accurate set of units that match the time and location, so 1944 again. This will allow you to recreate the battle of, or for at least, the Marianas Islands and the Battle of the Philippine Sea. So some dramatic moments in World War II, and of course the Marianas Islands that they have revamped here look absolutely amazing as well. So the aircraft right now, the Corsair that is available for a reduced price for early access, $47.99 during the early access phase. Then once it is released, it will bump back up to $59.99. So as I always say, gather ye aircraft while ye may. Well worth the price that it is, just under $50. And as some of you are aware, only Napalm, who is a regular commenter on my channel, was lucky enough to win. It was about a year or so ago, I think it was. We did a giveaway for the Corsair because there was some anticipation that it might come out. Actually, no, we did. It was another aircraft that we did a giveaway on, and he said, I won. I don't really want that aircraft. Is there any way you can give me the Corsair when it comes out? And I was like, yeah, I can honor that. And then he reached out again and reminded me that I'd made that promise to him. So he is the lucky recipient of a Corsair. And I think we'll do another giveaway here as well. So stay tuned to the end of the video for more details. All right, well, let's turn now to the other updates. So we've already talked about the Corsair and its fantastic release. The update, according to the team here, squashed several stability and performance bugs, improved AI behavior, overhauled several missile flight models, and pushed a healthy list of quality of life fixes for the quick action generator, mission editor, and voice chat, which a lot of you have commented on over the last few weeks with regards to particularly the QAG, or the quick action generator. Some issues there. Now, Marianas and World War II, which we already talked about. The free map, remember, of the Marianas Islands includes Guam, Saipan, Tinian, Rota, and Pagan, based on period maps and photos of the islands in the summer of 1944. They are characterized by hastily bulldozed runways, cane fields, volcanic ridges, and villages under Imperial Japanese control, which would not have been fun, unfortunately, during that particular period. The Japanese not the kindest masters, that's for sure, during that period. Now, DCS Core, what they did was they have done some revamping for texture streaming, which now uses less RAM and disk input-output. Mission editor templates and resource manager copy functions are now working correctly. World War II ground units received proper radar returns. This will be important for the BAT bomb, of course. SAM logic priorities targets more sensibly. The Buke and the Cube missiles, or the Buck and the Cub missiles, received improved aerodynamics, while the R-27 series of air-to-air missiles now deliver more accurate velocities. The Quick Mission Generator received several improvements, such as fixing error-country mismatches, restoring missing aircraft, and adjusting altitude and airspeeds. Voice chat mode selection and mid-transmission slot switch crashes have also been fixed. A couple of changes to the Eagle Dynamics modules. Well, the F-18C received more accurate AIM-7 flood and an AIM-9 uncage logic, and the flashlight behavior has been fixed. Work continues on the new terrain avoidance radar mode and the ability to set surveillance, MSI surveillance tracks as an LNS and DT2. Somebody asked me about this a while back, whether or not they were going to include the terrain avoidance radar. There was a long gap between the initial reference to this when the aircraft came out, like 5 or 6 years ago, and this was listed as one of the features, and I don't think it made it in until more recent times. So it was sort of, I guess, off the radar perhaps, or it was just waiting in the wings for other more priority work to occur first. So good news there. That will please some people. Likewise, moving on to the F-16 Viper, it saw the AGM-65 Seeker fixes, INS GPS drift corrections, the HMCS symbology tweaks, and a long list of HAD and CMDS improvements, while the new AN ASP33 pod moved into extended testing, which will disappoint. Now, though their hope was and intention was to release this new targeting pod for the Viper by the end of Q2 of 2025, it requires a bit more time and testing to ensure a quality release that will include new features such as multi-target tracking, picture-in-picture that combines the infrared and TV cameras, extended range functions, and more. So the planned release for this is the summer of 2025, which is not too bad as a delay, I think. That will really aid in making that Viper a great alternative for those of you wondering which aircraft to buy between the F-18. Certainly the air-to-ground capability of the Viper is very, very good and gives you a lot of options. Of course, if you like the challenge of having to return to the boat with the Hornet, well, divvying up your enjoyment there, or challenges, whatever floats your boat, so to speak. Either way, both are great aircraft. Now, moving on to an aircraft that certainly still needs more work, and that is the Chinook. The CH-47F receives a major CDU MFD feature drop, including the hover mode, HSD, full fuel and power pages, data search progress pages, plus keyboard entry options and pedal trim fixes. That's good news. Into the miscellaneous section here, the Su-25T instant actions were added for the Iraq map, the F-86F jettison soundbug is silenced, and the Black Shark 3 enjoys some ABRAS accuracy tweaks, which is good news. Well, we talked about this last week. Remember that Kohler adds 6 new Arctic bases, color-corrected summer textures, runway data fixes, and an optimization sweep. It's really good news. At Decker Ironworks, the JF-17 Thunder introduces the Trackwell Scan EXP radar mode and radar page HPT fixes. And lastly here, rounding out some of the other bits and bobs that often come with updates. Several campaigns received improvements here. So we have a couple of new campaigns as well. The F4E Northern Defenders campaign by Flying Psyking. There was a video release for that. I'll plonk that in the comments section below, or at least the description below. The P-47D Wolfpack 2 Overlord campaign by Reflected Simulations is also now available, along with the improvements included in last week's updates. More campaign improvements will follow later in June. So a lot of changes occurring there as the third-party developers of those campaigns make adjustments and tweaks as the game improves and changes. As Baltic Dragon said, that's almost a full-time job in itself, if it isn't a full-time job in itself. Now, wrapping up the newsletter for this week, ED reminded us that they're going to be on the 27th to the 29th of June at the Rhode Island Convention Center in Providence. They'll be at the Flight Sim Expo 2025, showcasing 2 state-of-the-art cockpits equipped with the latest WinWing hardware and ready for you to jump in and experience DCS world. I'm really looking forward to the force feedback joystick from WinWing, which we haven't really seen a whole lot of in terms of information since it was initially released. There was a little bit of an update, I think, at the beginning of the year. Then there was a pause because of the tariff stuff. And yeah, it's been a bit quiet in that department. So I'm hoping to see more. I'd love to get my hands on one of those. We'll come back to getting my hands on stuff in a quick second here. The team also advised that they're excited to share that Grinelli Designs will be at the show with their own booth, showcasing the highly anticipated DCS F100D Super Sabre, a legendary Cold War aircraft. I've got to reach out to them again too. I've been so busy. They did an interview with Enigma, I think, recently too, so I need to reach out and see how things are going there. So that's exciting that they're willing to showcase, put themselves out there. And lastly here, they say that the expo will also host several of their partners, including Orbix, Tobii, Pimax, and many more. So the show offers an exciting glimpse into the future of flight simulation. Come and say hello, try the latest gear, and join the community there. So as I said, getting my hands on, and Pimax being one of the partners, they are sending me out a Crystal Super, which I'm very excited to get my hands on and compare that to the experiences that I've had with the Crystal Light and the OG Crystal, which obviously are not quite as salubrious in terms of the detail that they can provide compared to the Super. So it's going to be an interesting comparison to me, and it's going to be an interesting comparison to in terms of the performance with the rig that I have right now. In fact, they asked me what my specs were to make sure that it would run properly. It looks like that's not going to be a problem at this stage. So, and Pimax, a supporter of the channel here as well. So I want to thank them for all the support that they've given me so far. Really enjoy flying with the Crystal. I've been using that pretty much for a year solid now. It's just been easy to use and not a lot of fluffing around now that it's set up. It's not overly complex to get running, and it's been a joy, I have to say. Lastly, let's talk about the initial impressions of the Corsair, the F4U-1D from Magnitude3. It has been an interesting experience. Actually, pretty easy to get started up, I must say, not overly complex, and not too bad to take off. There is some difference between flying the jets and flying the piston-engined aircraft, the tail draggers. It's a little bit different. You don't need to yank back on the stick with these aircraft to get them off. You're relying on that speed, almost a little bit of forward stick to get the nose level. And then as the momentum builds up, then you get that lift, 10 to 20 degrees of flap, and it will fly off the deck itself. That's not an uncommon thing with aircraft, but particularly a feature of these piston engine aircraft. The velocities aren't quite the same. They're not as heavy, so you don't need the same degree of speeds. You know, when you're talking the bigger jets, 150 knots typically, these guys will take off with a lot less than that. And again, there's that temptation to yank back on the stick, and that will cause you problems. You've also got a lot of management with the engine system, and if you're curious about that and want to know a little bit more, I would urge you to check out Reflected Simulations, who has done a great series of videos on that. So thus far, the best videos that I've seen out there. He has a good understanding, having worked with so many of the other World War II aircraft as well. So his knowledge there is really good. He goes through each of the different levers, what they do, how they work, and what you'll need them for. I had some initial issues with the cooling based on the basic tutorial just to get you taxi and taking off. And that's good and well. But then if you're not using the cowling to help ease the heat buildup, you're going to cook the engine pretty quickly. Remember, it is a radial engine, it's air-cooled, and that requires some persistent management, and it will change as you gain altitude as well. So there's different power settings and power curves, if you like, to get the best out of the engine. Then you've got the whole blower thing as well, the supercharging, which brings this engine to life and gives you a lot more power as you are using in different regimes of flight, particularly takeoff, and obviously in any kind of dogfighting where you need maximum performance. But again, you've got to be able to have a quick glance down at those temperature controls to make sure you're not cooking that engine and getting the best out of it. So I'm still learning that myself. It is very twitchy, which is to be expected of aircraft of this nature. Aircraft like the Spitfire, for example, were notoriously twitchy at low speeds, very sensitive aircraft, but beautiful in full flight. So they command respect. They are tricky to land, especially at low speeds, as I mentioned in the intro, where you are coming in at lower speeds. You have a lot of torque with these big engines. I mean, they will twist the body of the aircraft around itself, if you like, if you're not handling that with some offset trim, etc., and being very, very cautious about the use of throttle and prop pitch to manage that power. Something that Casmo mentioned in one of his videos. I had a quick look at something that he was doing, flying around, take off, that kind of stuff. So, like all aircraft, it's a dangerous business if you are just screwing around with them. They command respect. They will kill you. Oftentimes, a lot of pilots met their demise in landing and takeoff situations. The other thing is the landing. Definitely, it is an elliptical landing because of the lack of vision, similar to the F4 Phantom II, where you have that long nose and you have to sort of raise the seat up so you can help see over the edge. You're pretty much blind to anything underneath the nose. It makes it tricky to land. So again, this was not an uncommon thing for World War II aircraft. Spitfire, for example, again, also one with a long nose. So the mechanism for combating that was these elliptical landing patterns so that you could have as much vision of the runway as you came in till the very last second, sort of thing. I forget the name of the author now, but I was reading a New Zealand pilot who was I think he was a Spitfire ace, who got praise for his side slip landings. He would do these elliptical patterns with the Spitfire, which he really rated and enjoyed. And he got good at it. And one day he came in doing his usual thing, side slipping the aircraft in, and somebody noticed just how beautiful he brought that aircraft in. But there was a practical reason for this as well, not just showing off. So yeah, really nice. The modeling, of course, is fantastic. It's a pretty busy cockpit in many respects. So you can see the development of these aircraft over the course of the war, how much more sophisticated they got. They're starting to, if you like, resemble some of the more modern cockpits. Really, it should be the other way around, but you can start to see the parallels with the increase in technology that started to come in and starting to, I guess, bring in equipment that we're more familiar with if you're flying the jets. You can see the genesis of how things have evolved, and certainly over aircraft from the 1930s to ones that are coming out in the later 40s. It's a really, really interesting thing. So, all right, so if you are wanting to get yourself a copy of the Corsair, I will do a giveaway. Let's go #Corsair in the comments section below, and we'll see what we can do for you over the course of this week. That'll do. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the DCS SITREP.